welcome to the second part of this analysis. Here we have the average shows racing Group 3 manufacturers round 2 on Brands Hatch in, as the title says, Group 3 cars. So Vegeta here, we know from last episode on the BMW, and we have me in the Porsche. Most people drove the Porsche in this complete series. Over half of the grid, basically. But let's get into it. Let's start at Vegeta's point of view, just to give you a general idea of what happened. Then see my point of view to show you how I kind of reacted and what was going on there, and then the pursuers come. Okay, starting with Vegeta. Noticeably, the guy who qualified third just dropped on the starting line, went over and dropped back the grid. I don't know exactly why. It's not super cool, because that meant I didn't have slipstream for the whole beginning of the race, which allows the front runners, because they're faster, to run away with it, basically, and which leaves me stuck in nowhere, no man's land, basically. So if you're participating in a series like this, for whatever reason, at least complete the first few laps before dropping back or dropping out, because creating that gap in the grid does have severe negative consequences for the rest of the grid. Definitely for the guy directly behind you, who was kind of depending on your slipstream, but that's another matter. So yeah, basically you can cut the two leaders out. They will just make up the race on their own, because they basically got gifted not having to give anyone else slipstream, so they can just drive away, no one will catch up. It's also what happened. So yeah, which basically, for the best of the rest, right now leaves a battle between me and Vegeta. So he has my slipstream throughout the whole course, so he will catch up here. We have a turn here, I take it too aggressively, get on the grass, go wide, resulting in me being slower than him taking the race line, which means he can set up for a pass opportunity here. Not even arguing about that, that's how this happened. That is absolutely his prerogative, to go on the inside here, try to make the pass here, because he is way faster. If he wouldn't do this, he would end up in my rear bumper. Definitely he has to go for the move here, and he should. See how fast he is. So here we kind of have the problem. I wanted to stick to his side. So he brakes here. Not full braking as we are used from Vegeta. Gradual braking. Normally for this turn you brake hard for just a bit and then roll through the turn. Here he's from full braking. He comes into the apex. You can drive over that little bit of astroturf there, no problem, and you should. It makes the racing line much smoother. So he doesn't touch the apex, goes wide. He's letting off on the brakes to have a better turn in here, because if you brake fully your tires will lock up at these speeds. But yeah, he's way too fast. He broke way too late. Braked way too late. He is overshooting this turn right here. And you can see he is not doing his front right tire a huge service. So he was wide, having overshot his braking point. Braking way too hard. You can see my antennas coming in there. So I try to avoid him. He goes wide. At this point, he is off track. Meaning he has to make sure he re-enters safely onto the track. No matter what he does, he cannot impact anyone else. So still drifting wide. He is accelerating just a tiny bit to stabilize the car. Turns in a bit too aggressively here to get back on track, but he is kind of in the center. He has to try and get out of there. That's not a problem. So here, let's see, he is back on the curb. Here, he starts sliding, which is a major issue. He definitely has to feel it by now. He's breaking out in the front there, you can see that goes super rapid. Frame by frame, he will spin out. So, what he has to do is turn into the left, get off the throttle, stabilize the car, re-accelerate, while trying not to impact Chick Mangione here too much, which will be difficult to do. So let's see what he does. He feathers the throttle, he goes back on the steering, which is so far so good. He is trying to correct his line to the left. Meanwhile, coming closer to me. Here is the main mistake. He has by far not stabilized his car. He is still sliding, his rear end is still over the curbs, he will slip around there. There's no stopping that unless you know what to do and don't get on the power here. But getting on the power here in this situation will make his rear go a bit wider. He will catch the curb and spin out completely. So, which is what he sees. He's not full throttling, he's trying to. But that's way too much throttle. So, here he sees his mistake and tries to correct again. Trying to go back. But at this point, he will hit me. He could have avoided that, gone perpendicular to the track instead of flashing in, but he did. So at this point, he's still trying to get away from me, but it's way too late. He's completely off the throttle, kind of. Only throttling a little bit, it's basically off the throttle at this stage. But yeah, he doesn't see a problem in this at all. He re-enters the track unsafely, he has a very light stroke on the throttle. But yeah, I have to collect him here. That's a 45-degree impact, which means he is going to be sent straight to the track. I am going to be sent right into this section of the wall. because of his unsafe re-entry because he overshot the turn. And that's exactly what happens. He's braking here, but that doesn't matter. He caused the problem in the first place. Still brake. Here he doesn't have to brake anymore. Oh, he is sliding out to the other side, okay. So full speed. He's faster because I made a mistake. I could have defended to the inside. I chose not to because I didn't want to be a bother. I could have easily done it right here. Because I knew, okay, I messed up, he is gonna be super fast. I chose to let him pass here. I took the outside, let him go, he overshot, he went off track, he re-entered unsafely, used me to correct his course. In the end. Everything after the overshooting I don't think was intentional, but it was a thing he did. So he claims 4th place here, coming in at the end in place 3. After that incident, where doing this mistake, going for the overtake here but missing the braking point and overshooting and going off track here, not re-entering safely. If I wouldn't have been here to collect him and push him to the track again and kind of catch him, he would have gone into this barrier right here, or spun around facing this direction. But I was there, I collected him, I helped him straighten out, giving him the possibility to fight for the podium, which he just took. I mean, you can see here he's just trying to correct his car. As soon as it is pointing in the right direction, he's straight on the gas again, and from here on he will race like nothing happened. In real life his car would be broke and he would have had a black flag to his name for re-entering unsafely. Goes just like nothing happened at all. He did say sorry for the incident early in the race, after the race, to me. But sorry doesn't cut it in this incident, to be honest. There is a thing called racing etiquette, and racing etiquette does not say everything is fine as long as you say sorry afterwards. Right? Racing etiquette says don't be a bother to everyone. If you are, try and make it up to them. Normal response to something like this happening would be you drive over to the side of the track and you let the guy you completely punted off the track due to your own fault pass you, and then you rejoin the race and go about your shit. Shouldn't have said that word, but that's in there now. Okay, looking at it from my perspective. So, I will mess up this turn here completely. Going too aggressive, going wide, having to catch it. I know he is behind me, side by side. I knew he would be super fast. He would be catching up. I had the place earlier, right at the turn exit, to slip into the inside to try and defend this position. But I figured, okay, I mess up so much, he's gaining so much time, he will be flying past me. Even if I force him to take the outside line, he will probably take the position. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna take the outside line, not do anything weird, let him pass on the inside, get into a slipstream, and we go on racing. That mistake cost me so much time. I thought, okay, you can have the place. We're gonna race afterwards. But there was no defending this. I mean, you can see his advantage. So, I want to check where I break. Should be at the 2 about. Maybe not. Oh yeah, it's this one. Alright, this is where I made the mistake. That's why. So this mistake, he catches up. This too. Start. Okay. Should have come better prepared. Guess that's touching the brakes here. I see him flying by. And okay. This is basically the brake pad, somewhere in front of that one sign. Meanwhile, as we know and love from the video before, he's still accelerating. Now he's not accelerating anymore, and he's starting to brake, but he's braking way later as me. Right? Still not on the brake there. He's braking there, which is way too late, which causes him to overshoot. Meanwhile, I'm braking, biding my time here. Basically, I am waiting for him to clear the turn and sliding in directly behind his bumper, his rear bumper, and kind of accelerate out of the turn at the same time as him to just stick to his rear bumper, have all the slipstream, and see how the racing goes from there. If I can take the position back, or if he messes up here, I position myself exactly in a way here, like I described in the last part, where I stick to the outside, brake in a straight line as much as possible, try and go for a later apex, and either get the cutback or a better acceleration out of the turn. This is how you would defend against a dive bomb. This was not a dive bomb. He had all the speed. You can see basically at this point in the braking zone I have an overlap on him. And we're not even talking about him having or having not an overlap on my car. He definitely deserves to overtake you because I was going so slow into this turn. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna brake softly around the outside. Here I can see him. He is still straight, which means he will, if we got a good view, no, not really. He will go deep and try and hang to the outside of the turn on exit. And since I see that, I turn in here, trying to hit the apex from here, or at least not missing it by a whole lot because I was preparing for a late apex. But since I saw him going straight still, I was like, okay, I'm gonna cut this short. I'm gonna try and get around here while not having decelerated as much as I wanted to in the first place to take the late apex, which makes this a little bit weird of a racing line. But I tried to switch back here, try to make it to his right. He goes off here. I try to leave him some space to get back on track if he decides to jiggle around. But he has all 4 wheels off track right now. He has to safely re-enter, no matter what. There is no questioning the regulation on that. He is off track, he has to re-enter safely. Still try to give him some space. You see, if he rejoined correctly, there is enough space for him to be to my left side. As of right now. It will get a bit tricky once the curb ends. I would have to move over to the right there anyhow, which I'm preparing for. And he spins around on the curb due to accelerating way too early and way too harshly. Nothing I can do at this point. He punts me off. And I rejoin in, I think it's place 9. After everything's done. And these guys go around. Place 9. We have only Spacer and Hikaru back there. I don't know what they did. But they didn't race. They started on the grid and just didn't do anything, I think. So again, exactly this is the moment I do my mistake. I have to catch my car. I know I'm going to be super slow. I brake to the outside, take a wide line, and get surprised and pushed off into the wall. As I said, this incident caused him to say sorry exactly once after the race and never talk of it again. Which is not fine behavior. If you do a mistake that at this point basically took me out of the race completely, qualifying up before him, in front of him, and then having to rejoin basically as last entrant because Spacer and Hikaru weren't participating. Even though they were on track, which I don't know why, but that's another topic. I had to restart the race from the back after 2 turns were already done. My tires didn't take a huge amount of damage from that, but we had 10 times tire wear, so that could have been much worse. Definitely has an impact on my tires, having to spin out there because I get punted off. So I have to see now what I do with my strategy. Which strategy was its own thing in this race altogether, but was very interesting. But yeah, nothing I could do. In this race I would go on from this place and at the end secure place 4, which is insane. Getting 5 positions from here on a track where it's ridiculously hard to overtake. In a tire and fuel consumption race after getting punted off to still come out with that result. He overall took place 3 at the end, which you can argue, right? I started on grid position 4, he started on 5, I ended on 4, he came to 3rd after this incident, where he completely punted me off. Not intentionally, but he did it nevertheless, right? He re-entered unsafely. He had to expect something to happen if he isn't careful there. He just wanted to cling onto that position no matter what, and that no matter what happened to be ruining my race. Because I definitely had the pace, right? Going through 5 cars to end up right behind him again after this incident. You can tell I was pretty strong at this race. I practiced my ass off. And to have that ruined lap 2 by a stupid driver making a stupid mistake is kind of dumb, but it happened. I continued on racing. He wasn't sportsmanlike. In the race, he should have given me the place back immediately after spinning out into me, making me spin out. That's how sportsmanship works. And then, after the race, just saying sorry once isn't gonna cut it in any measure. Okay. Incident from Jonas' view. He goes around the outside, overshoots it, heavy braking. I try to leave him space. He knocks me out. GG. And not a single bit of remorse in his soul.